Good evening. 3 containers of classic American cars imported from California landed in Dunedin, complete with more than a dozen passengers, a colony of poisonous spiders. When Dunedin Quarantine Officer Stuart Hart opened the first container, he found this lovely old Cadillac harbouring a family of black widow spiders. The black widow venom isn't necessarily fatal, but it could kill a child or an elderly or infirm person. All 3 containers were immediately fumigated, flushing out 12 females, 2 males, 2 juveniles and a number of egg sacs. Although black widows have stowed away to New Zealand before, this is the largest single colony to be found. The Mayor of Dunedin's luxury motor launch Madeira was looking a little worse for wear today after a weekend accident in Otago Harbour. The launch collided with a red channel marker similar to this one. Port Otago staff say the marker, known as Pile 28, can no longer be seen above the surface. Sir Clifford, who's the first chairman of the new Port Otago company, says he wasn't in command at the time of the collision. He describes the damage to Madeira as superficial and says it won't take too much to put it right. The committee that's fighting against hospital cuts in Gore claims it can teach the Southland Area Health Board how to save hundreds of thousands of dollars. That's one of the things a large crowd was told at a public meeting in the town last night. Kim Hurring was there.
It was a meeting of the converted. Not a single person spoke in favour of the Area Health Board's cuts. The talk was of fights and battles to the end.
And if we miss at the board level, we'll go to the government. And if we miss at the government, we'll change the board in October. And if we miss when the board is changed, we'll go to the courts. And we'll fight it through every court in the land, right up to the Privy Council if necessary. But when the smoke of battle clears, we will win. Thank you very much.
At a rally in Gore last Sunday, Chairman Lance Blakey came in for a fair bit of flack, and once again last night he was blamed for decisions that have led to a split between the people of Gore and his health board. In particular, questions were asked about the amount of money the board spends on administration and provision of specialist services, when many at the meeting saw Dunedin as a better provider.
We've got to be realistic. We are a small province. We are only asking for basic medical care. And if the thickheads on the Southland Area Health Board can't see that, goodness knows what will happen.
Today, Mr Blakey said there was no way the board could make more than $4 million in cuts without disturbing some part of Southland's health services. He's disturbed that senior medical staff, whom he says want to retain full services at Kew, have not spoken out. The final decision on cuts won't be made until it's sometime after the budget, but in Gore, Sergeant Dan is preparing for the worst.
Ice hockey's a growth sport in the south if bookings for tomorrow night's big game in Queenstown are anything to go by. 400 seats have already been sold for the match between the local team and a Canadian side. But as Michael Lynch reports, there'll be more than just ice hockey on the programme.
From tiny beginnings, ice hockey is starting to make a mark. Christchurch has 5 senior teams and the Southern League south of Christchurch a further 8. And tomorrow the Queenstown team will face the Newmarket Bombers from Canada, at both ice hockey and something quite new to this country. Queenstown's perhaps New Zealand's mountain bike capital. They've been racing them over the hills for a few years, but this is certainly the first time on ice. There are a few new techniques to be learned. The first, the ability to take the knocks. But that's nothing new to ice hockey players.
Doesn't it worry you, sort of hitting the edge?
Oh, no. It's all in the name of fun.
Are you going to go any faster than this?
Maybe. Depends on the competition.
Yeah. Artificial rinks are boosting ice sports. Dunedin held its first ice hockey matches last night, and it hopes to have a team in the Southern League next year.
A road safety show targeting teenage drinking and driving and loutish behaviour on the roads is touring the south. It's put together by the Christchurch-based New Zealand Roadshow Trust and is strongly endorsed by the Dunedin City Council. Caroline Harper joined the show at Columba College.
1 person in 5 is injured or killed on New Zealand roads before they reach the age of 25. The current road safety show targets young people and the issues of drinking and driving, especially those who ride with someone who's been drinking.
Do you love me?
Yeah.
Prove it. Sam.
Come on, this isn't Dave's clapped-out Holden we're talking about. Come for a burl, it won't kill you.
But you've been drinking.
Just a couple of beers.
The main message for young women is not to get into cars with guys who've been drinking, because most of the road accidents are among young men. And we feel that if the young women can put pressure on those young men not to drive when they're drunk by refusing to get into cars with them, then they may well change what happens on the roads.
I think it's pretty dumb if you're going to drink and drive.
I would never get into a car with a person that had been drinking.
And there's a very, very big message behind it, and it sort of hit home pretty hard.
The show travels further south later this month.
Remember the days when 4 and 6 added up to 45, provided you were talking sense? Yesterday was 22 years to the day since the introduction of decimal currency, and a Dunedin pub ran a special offer for a couple of hours, jugs of beer for 4 and 6, provided you paid in the old currency.
4 and 6. Have 4 and 6 there? I'll have 2, thank you.
Take care of the pennies and the pounds will look after themselves. That's what they used to say in the pre-decimal days. And the punters at the Green Island Commercial Tavern have certainly been hoarding their pennies, their half-crowns, their florins and threepences. A couple of hundred jugs changed hands in the 2 hours the offer was on.
It's about time, actually, that they started bringing the price down. It just shows you that they can do it.
You come back if they have another deal like this.
Well, I'm here all the time now, so it doesn't make any difference.
Does the beer taste the same as it did back in '67?
I wouldn't know. I didn't drink then. I only started today.
It was nothing if not a good night. Tales of carefully hoarded coinage, a chance to try it on, not so much with the bad penny as with a 10-bob note that's seen better days.
Where's the other half?
There were penny raffles for bottles of wine, and while the offer lasted, a rush to fill the jugs at the old price.
One gentleman, please.
What are you actually getting for these half-crowns and these threepences?
We haven't worked it out as yet, but they'll all be banked in the proper's way.
But somebody's told me that you're taking them out the back and selling them for twice the price.
Well, I hope to get a lot more than that.
We left the good folk at the commercial enjoying their stockpiled jugs. They promise they'll be back if the offer's repeated next year.
Another arduous task for our reporter, Michael Lynch. It's a tough life, isn't it? We'll be back tomorrow night. Good night.